You look in the mirror and you suddenly realize that you don't know who you are anymore. Welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty, and today we're going to talk about our loss of identity after losing someone that we love. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say you've lost your identity? The way you see yourself is different. The way you see your place in the world is different now because of your loss. In this video, we're going to talk more about your loss of identity, the loss of your sense of self, and how to find meaning again and look at yourself and your life in a whole new way. I talk to so many individuals who have lost a spouse, lost a child, or lost a parent, someone that we are inextricably tied to, that our lives are intertwined with, and we can't imagine a world without them in it until suddenly we are. And so that is what affects our loss of identity, because we are now different people without them in our lives. And so that creates a whole series of things that we need to navigate, things that are really difficult, things that we didn't anticipate. It can affect our sense of purpose and how we show up in the world. There's so many wives who were married for 20, 30, 40 years that I talk to here at Grief Inspired, who say, I don't know who I am without my husband. What am I going to do? And when little things in their life start to break or need repaired, or something that happens that normally their spouse would handle, they become paralyzed and they don't know what to do. And that's because they don't see themselves in a role where they could do those things. Yes, maybe they could cut the grass. Maybe they could repair a faucet. We all have YouTube now. But even thinking about how would I do that without my spouse is really a perspective shift. And we have to look at ourselves in a different way. And I encourage so many women to say, well, you can do this. You can either do it yourself, or you can hire someone to help you if you don't want to do it yourself. But sometimes those are the sorts of things that aren't really, we don't have an awareness of it. And so we feel really lost. And as we begin to navigate the grief journey, we start to realize we try to do it ourselves. Maybe we can't find someone to help us, but it bothers us that it's still not done. Maybe that faucet is leaking. Maybe it's just the little things that need to be repaired. And so suddenly you start to realize that, yes, I can do this. And maybe you give it a try. Maybe it fails. Maybe you do need to call somebody later. But you start to realize, wait a minute, I can do this on my own. And I love watching women realize that even though these are things that they didn't want to have to do, they loved having a spouse who took on those responsibilities. When their spouse is suddenly not there, they start to realize, wait a minute, I can do these things. I am someone who can handle this situation. I am someone who can repair that faucet. I am someone who can hang the picture on the wall that needs to be hung. I am the one who can make the phone calls that need to be made. I can handle my finances on my own, even though I've never had to do it before. And so it does take time and a slight shift in perspective to realize I am someone who can do that. And so I love seeing women change in this way, become aware that they can do it. But in the beginning, that loss of identity, saying, what am I going to do? I'm not somebody who takes care of the finances. I'm not somebody who can repair the things. I'm not someone who knows how to do this. No, this isn't my job. That was his role. And so initially we push back and we say, no, I don't want to be responsible for this. But in time we start to realize that we can. You know, when I lost my child, he was the thing that made me a mother, or at least that's what I thought. And I remember thinking, who am I without my son? I'm certainly not a mother. And so it shattered my sense of self. It created a loss of identity for me. And then when Mother's Day came along, I wasn't sure. Could I celebrate Mother's Day? Was I qualified? Because I was a mother, but I'm not anymore. And that was me grappling with my sense of self and the meaning that I wanted to have. And so over time, I realized that with my son Jackson, who passed away, and whether I would have had another son, you all know that I have an 11-year-old now, whether I had Mason or not, the existence of Jackson, the fact that I was pregnant, the fact that I birthed my son, the fact that he lived, all of those things independently made me a mother. And for those of us who have lost our parents, there's a whole loss of identity there. Because who are we if our parents don't exist anymore? Losing both of our parents, we may say we feel orphaned because we no longer have that connection. And so it takes time to realize that you're still a child. You're still a child. My father's anniversary is actually this weekend, the 1-year anniversary of his death. And I have a new awareness that I will always be his daughter, whether he is alive or not. His memory is still very much a part of who I am. The things that he taught me are still within me. The things that I've grown to really appreciate about him and our relationship, they're still there. They're still part of me. And so even though I am now a daughter without a father who's physically living, he is still there. He's still with me. He's still within my heart. But that took time to develop. And so if you are in a situation where you feel like you don't know who you are, and you have to find like a whole new place in the world, a whole new way to see yourself, I want you to know that you can do this. And so it's looking for the meaning and the purpose. If you were someone who was a long-term caregiver for your parent, and that was your sense of self, your sense of purpose, everything that you did in the world was take care of them. When you suddenly lose them, that affects your sense of self. It affects your identity. It affects why you exist. And so the goal there is to say, okay, well, what else? What other meaning and purpose can I find for myself and my life? And there is an opportunity when you have this loss of identity to take a moment and do some brainstorming, or I call it whiteboarding, where you can take a marker and you can write on a whiteboard, or you can spend time in quiet thought with a piece of pencil and a paper too, and just say, well, who am I now? And who do I want to be? There is an opportunity. My sense of self shifted when I started doing these videos on YouTube. I suddenly became the person who helps other people through grief. And I certainly didn't see myself as that in my earliest days of grief. That wasn't something that ever even crossed my mind. It certainly wasn't something that when I was pregnant with my son, or when I was in the hospital with him when he was in the NICU, that I ever thought would be part of my future. But the goal at Grief Inspired is to keep on living. And that your grief is about your life. and you are still here. And even if you feel like you've lost your sense of identity, there is a future waiting for you. And it can include your loved one. It can include all of the memories and everything that they've given to you. But it doesn't mean that you have to stay stuck in the past. You can move forward into the future. I highly recommend finding a way that you can serve other people. Maybe it's sharing your story. Maybe it's sharing your gift. Maybe it's starting something new. What is it that you can do? What can your future look like? You don't have to decide today, but what you should begin thinking about is the options that are available to you. And one of the gifts of grief, the gifts of loss, is that it's really a forcer. It forces you to look at your life in ways that you haven't done before. It helps you to realize that you can't take advantage for any moment of your life, and that every morning that we wake up is a gift. Because just like with your loved one, today someone didn't wake up. And so we want to use the time that we have wisely. And I recommend doing it to serve others, because that helps with meaning and purpose. And so I want to ask you today, if you are feeling like you've lost your identity, you've lost your sense of self, you've lost your purpose, who is it that you want to be? Who is it that you could be? And just start being curious and being an inquiry on that topic. And there are things that will come into your life. There are opportunities that will present themselves to you, that all you have to do is recognize that opportunity and lean into a little bit. And you're welcome to change your mind and say, hey, I leaned into this a little bit. I tried this out and it wasn't for me. But there are things that you will lean into and you'll give a try, and you'll maybe meet some new people or go to a new group or visit a new senior center or visit some shut-ins or anything that you can think of. And suddenly you will find meaning and purpose for your life that's fulfilling, that makes you feel good, that brings you joy. That's what I want for you in the life that you have now. You can take your loved one with you, so this is not replacing them. It's just finding something new. And I bet if your loved one was here and you can close your eyes and you can ask them what they would think. They want you to move forward. They want you to grow as a person. They want you to try something new. And the fun part about this is being able to say, who can I become? Who do I want to be? Who can I be? And it's just like that Rudolph cartoon that those of us in the US watch every Christmas. You put one foot in front of the other, and pretty soon you'll be walking out the door. You can find your sense of self. You can find new purpose. And so if you're lost right now, know that there is a path forward, and it's up to you to find it. And if you need some help, you know where to come. You know to email me at griefinspired@gmail.com. You know to inquire about the next grief course that I am going to be running, because you can get in there and you can be with other people and you can explore what's next for you. So we deal with our grief, we learn about it, we understand how it shows up, and then we start to look at what's next. Grieving alone is the one thing that you don't want to do. I always say you have to get your grief out, and we need to grieve better together. I want to encourage you to drop me a note here, find me on Facebook and join our Facebook group there. Get into my grief course. Start to explore what's next to you. And on the next anniversary of your loved one's loss, you may just have found something new. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what's going off in your head as a result of this video, and I can't wait to hear more about what you come up with. We can do this together.